internet, so I want to talk to you because I did the terrible, terrible, terrible thing that I said I wouldn't do in November, and I'm sorry if this video has any lines, but like I just shattered my screen again. I don't think it will though. Yeah, I decided to do the terrible thing again. Rewrite and edit my novel when I haven't finished it. Because that's what crazy people do. That like to be stuck in a loop of eternally never finishing their stories or manuscripts. This one I feel bad about, but at the same time I don't feel bad about it because I couldn't progress in the story. And this is usually when I start rewriting. When I get so stuck that I can't do it. When writing the last chapter feels so alluring, but at the same time I don't feel ready for it. Like, I couldn't write it. I tried to write the fluffy scene that I loved, and I couldn't do that well. I just didn't like it. I didn't like the tone of it. Maybe that was just my mood, but I tried it a few times and it didn't work. I didn't want to write the next scene. Like, I thought about just scrapping it and writing the next one, and then I was like, no, I don't want to do that either. And it's not that there was an issue with the plot. The plot was fine. It was just a me thing and not liking the foundation I had laid, although I liked the foundation I had laid. Also, I don't like who I was as a person when I was writing it, so that's another issue. Because, like, at the start of December, I was broken up with, so for the entirety of this draft, I was in a failing relationship and I felt like shit. And my self-esteem was way down there. The highest point of my self-esteem was my writing, and that wasn't even that high. Now it's a lot higher. Like, my self-esteem is the highest it's been in years, like, probably since I was a child. And I'm fucking loving that shit. Just in all areas of my life, I feel better about myself, which is a nice change. So I ended up just moving everything from my NaNoWriMo Scrivener into my actual Scrivener for this whip, and then I decided to create a new plotting folders where I like have follow the 3-act, whatever, 3-act, 9-block, whatever, plotting structure when it comes to it. I don't actually pay too much attention to it, but I like having it there as like boundaries for things to keep in mind. Granted, I realize how much I stray from it, but that's beside the point. And I went through and I named everything, and I didn't name it as I should or as I have before. So I still have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 named as they should be. All the blocks and all the chapters are named just weirdly, like one of them is literally just, it changed! And another one is like, hello, threat! And you're not that bad. Like, I know what needs to be conveyed through it, and that's what they stand for. But I've been going through and been doing it at such a slow pace too. Like, the day I worked the most, which I think was the day I started doing it and I'd been trying to write beforehand, was 1,500 words, and every other day has been like 400, 500 words. It hasn't been that many days either. Like, this chapter was 3,500 words. At the moment it's sitting at 4,500 words, but that's because 900 of those are from the previous one, and I'm just going through, like, I copied it all and I'm literally just like writing and reading and writing and deleting and writing and deleting. But there were structural things that I also didn't like about this draft. I didn't like how much dialogue I had without internal thought. I was missing that internal side. Like, I did have key parts of it, but it wasn't expanded on enough. I was trying to show too much rather than, I didn't have that balance for show and tell, which I'm getting back now. I also think, like, I went through it too fast. I didn't think about the actual first few chapters as I wrote them. I pretty much just wrote the shit out of them, and now I'm like thinking and calculating, which was so nice to get back to. I have been feeling creatively dry as well, but this is getting me back in the zone of being creative and just having things surprisingly come out of nowhere. There have been certain things where previously I just didn't know how to work it, or I didn't know how to word it, and now I do. So that's a plus. But I seriously hope this is the last time I rewrite this fucking draft, and it's finished before I draft again, because I'm getting sick of this shit. But at least right now I'm feeling better about everything. Like, I was worried there's a character they just had to introduce that has the same name as my ex. He's existed for a lot longer than my ex. They behave in different ways and their names are spelt differently, but still, when we started dating I was like, oh, this feels a bit weird because I know this character and I don't like him that much. and I'm dating you and you have the same name and that's just odd. Maybe I have to change it. Now I don't have to change it because I don't care. If someone turns around and be like, oh my god, your ex's name is the same as his name. Wow, now I know your ex is in the book. And I'm like, no, my ex isn't in the book, but like his name is passed down and it's been set in stone for like 5 years now and I'm not fucking changing his name. It might be more than 5 years now that I think about it. But I'm not fucking changing his name. It might be like 7 years. The other thing that I was worried about when we first broke up was that I wouldn't be able to write my story, because at that point in time I was building Alex and Declan's relationship and flirtation, and I was like, what if there's echoes of us and I can't handle it? Turns out there are no echoes of us, which is great. There's only echoes of me in a past flirtation, which, you know, really helps for drawing on. But it still felt wrong. It still didn't feel right. Like, their flirtation's not going to change. It's going to stay the same. It's going to still have those same echoes. But it just felt weird. And I didn't like it. It introduced the antagonist in such a fantastic way, but at the same time I was like, I don't like it. Like, the rest of it. There's a scene that I wrote from Sam's perspective, and it's the only scene that will ever be from Sam's perspective, and I was like, that's just being a bad writer. You should work out how to put that in Alex's perspective, because it's the only time he's changed perspectives, apart from one of the last chapters, but I don't really change perspectives, but you think I change perspectives? In like a heartbreaking way, you know, just to fuck with you. But it's... I now know how I can write that from Alex's perspective and still portray what I need to portray. I know the relationship that I have to continue to build between Sam and Alex's sisters, and Alex and Declan. Alex and Declan's probably the easiest for me to write, to be honest. But I also felt like I had them trusting too much against what they would normally do. I need to have more of that internal fight of them feeling the need to trust each other, but not actually trusting each other, because they just met. I don't care how many mutual friends you have with someone, they both have trust issues. It's gonna take a while, and that's something that I wasn't capturing, because I was feeling crazy in my own head. At some moments I trusted my ex so much, and at other moments I felt just so like not good. And I think I can see that when I go through. I'm not going to rush this. If I write 500 words a day and only write like 5 days a week, I'm happy with that. I'm writing. I'm not going to try and push it like I do with NaNoWriMo. There are going to be scenes that are going to be so much easier that I know I'll fly through. But especially for this setup and interweaving everything they need to interweave, I know it's going to take a while. And I know it's going to involve thinking. And I know I feel like creatively dry. And I want to do so many other things, but... that's the one thing I don't want to rush again. I don't want to rush the setup, because the setup is the most important part. If you don't realise, like, how overprotective of Sam Alex is, how afraid of Sam she is, how afraid of herself she is, you're not going to understand all the later things. I have previously, like, written out her mother in this story, but then she comes back at the end and it makes no sense, and I think I'm going to have to show her again. In not a drastic as a way as I have previously, but in a pretty drastic way. Just in the way that she would feel defeated about her mother, but at the same time want to defeat her mother. And her need is to always protect Sam. Like, I'm thinking, seriously thinking, about changing the fluffy scene into more of a conflict scene with a little bit of fluff in there, because we all need fluff. And then you can kind of see how she'd wear herself to the bone for Sam, and that way later in the story it won't be so surprising. You'll get to see where she gets her low self-esteem from and her self-doubt and everything, and it won't be as surprising. But yeah, I'm gonna go. I've talked about the terrible thing. I'll talk to you guys later, and yeah.